Ich freue mich sehr, heute zwei sehr beeindruckende Frauen vorstellen zu können. Das ist einmal Elisabeth Kang, die Inhaberin der Galerie Kang Contemporary, und ihre Künstlerin Chan Sook Choi. Chan Sook Choi ist Videokünstlerin und macht unglaublich tolle Projekte, die natürlich von Frauen und der aktuellen Migrationsthematik geleitet sind. Und ich freue mich sehr, die beiden jetzt im Interview zu haben. I am very happy to have two wonderful women here. This is the artist Chan Sook Choi. Hello, Chan Sook, very welcome. Okay, and Elizabeth Kang from the Galerie Contemporary in Berlin. And I'm very happy that we made it with your artist who has to tell a lot about her art projects. And I'm really curious to get to know more. So now I'm going to ask you, Chan Sook, I start with you because I found you in the internet because I found that you did something with women from Japan who went to Korea. And the story which I was reading was so interesting that I was aware who you are. And then I know Elizabeth since quite a time. And then I found out that you are the artist who is exhibiting at the moment with Elizabeth Kang. So I was really, I thought, things are coming together. So I'm very happy. So I start directly with you and ask you about one project which you showed in the Grimmuseum about the Japanese women, and then about your actual exhibition with Elizabeth Kang. And then I'm going to introduce Elizabeth a little bit and want to know more about her gallery and what the artists are doing and so on. So very happy to have you here, Chan Sook. You're on your way to South Korea now. I think you're leaving soon, but I'm very happy that you're in Berlin. Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you, and thanks for inviting to having this great interview with you. And yes, I am originally came from Korea, and I came to Germany 2001, and then actually my the biggest event in my life was my mother dying when I was very young, around 17 years old, and then that event was for me is a kind of the storm, and also it changed a lot of my life. And then I just escaped from Korea and went to Germany. And then actually I didn't have any problem to living here, but after 3 years or the times goes by, and I feel like I categorize as Asian women and also foreigners and this kind of given categories coming out. And then I'm thinking about a lot what is our real identity, or and what is the given identity, and why we are living as this kind of identity in this society. So and then it is at the beginning of to thinking about my grandmother, because my grandmother living as foreigner in Korea, because she was in Japanese, and she married my grandfather who came from the North Korea, and they met in Japan, and they made a family and they living in Japan. But after that was the colony time in Korea. And so when the Second World War finished, they have to return to Korea. So just my grandmother following my grandfather to Korea.
South or North? I would like to know. South or
2000 at
South?
the time, and then there are no internet at the time. That was before around the 1947. So, and they didn't know what happened in Korea at the time. And actually, in Korea was totally phenomenon against Japanese, because the Japanese colonies time happened a lot of things like comfort woman in Korea for the Japanese soldier.
We have to explain this because I don't think that everybody knows what is a comfort woman. That's what they call a prostitute, right? It's the
Right.
called prostitution in the area where you've been. And so it was really a hard time which these women had. and it's a very important history in part of women from there, and you felt it with your grandmother, and this was a big influence in your artwork, I guess, right?
Right, it is because comfort woman's history is actually very important. The Korean feminism history also because of this stand-up rising up this comfort woman. It was a start point for the feminism movement in Korea. So I think it's very important point for Korean history. And then, yeah, so the many Koreans are so against the Japanese, but this kind of Japanese woman like my grandmother didn't know about that, because one of the interview, I can imagine it was very impressive for me, because they thought if they are going climb up the high mountain, they can see the Japan. So that's why they climb up every night. So they didn't have any orientation about that. But they cannot also come back to Japan because the relationship between Japan and Korea was broken. So they are just stuck in, and then they have to alive in Korea as a role of the
Kind of migration refugee situation similar to
right, it is, and then yeah, and then they have to staying with their family. But it happened the Korean War soon in 1948, and then they cannot also doing nothing. But they have a very hardened time because they are Japanese. So their children
I
cannot.
get you're half Japanese, is it right? Half Japanese?
So I am a quarter Japanese. Yeah, right. My father is a half Japanese, but I'm not the half, but I have the part of the Japanese
Okay.
blood. And then
How did the story of your grandmother influence your art? Because I think, when you have this story, because your mother passed away when you were very young.
right.
So your grandmother played, I guess, an important role in your life. And how was the influence on you, this tragedy, which you got to know from your grandmother? How did it influence your artwork? That's what's very interesting for me.
Because actually her present are not so dominant on my life before I immigrate to Germany. But after that, I realized that I have also same experience with her. So I really remind every time when I saw some kind of this foreign woman in or migration in Germany. So as you know, in Berlin has many migrations people and so on. So that's why I'm starting to find her trace, and then at the beginning that was not for my artwork, just for my personal curiously, and then so I just but when I start to having some question to my grandmother, but she already passed away, and then I cannot ask nothing, and so
This leads me to a question which I would like to ask you directly. Sorry, Elizabeth, I come and introduce you a little bit later. Sorry, but for me, for me, art is something very cultural. It has to do a lot with the country you're born, with the experience you made. So it's a very personal thing also, and it's also a political thing. So it's cultural politics where you've been raised and grown up. For me, it's like this must have been very influential you. So for me, I would like to know, how is your art, what you're doing now, influenced also by the culture? Because I think you're something like in between. You're quarter Japanese, a little bit, or half Korean, and now you're maybe a quarter German because you're living here a long time. So
right,
how does this come together? All these very, very different cultures. The Japanese culture and the Korean culture. I think they're also quite different.
right.
People think they are more or less the same, but I think they are not. There's a
No,
big difference in the culture.
that's true.
And I would really like to know how this put your artwork in a certain direction, and what it came out from that, and what is your answer to all these different things.
That is really interesting question, actually, because I am really struggling about this kind of mixed cultural identity. Because when I in Korea, many people says, "Oh, your artwork looks like very German or German style," and then when I'm in German, and "Oh, you are so like amazing Asian culture," or your artwork showing some kind of Asian philosophy and Asian aesthetic like that, and then and what is then my own aesthetic and own artistic language. So I'm really thinking about what is the real my language. And so I think I am really trying to build up some kind of third ground, which is not so include many given cultural background.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, it's all mixed, but I think it's this kind of a third ground is not cannot be so shining, but I think it's a very important perspective, and because I am not I don't have any the deep roots on ground,
Then,
so
but
yeah, so
this leads me to another question. Your artwork, are you painting? Are you doing videos, or are you contemporary art? So let me know a little bit about the kind you do produce art and how you see art and what role it plays in your point of view for human beings.
yeah, my artwork I'm doing mainly video installations and also some sculpture and but mainly I make the film and videos and installation, and I really love to create some kind of new space or new locality through my artwork, and I want to transform this kind of exhibition place to the other to having some make sense to audience, to find some new sensibility. So yeah, and then yeah, um, the artwork for me, yeah, it had I think it's the processing to giving some questioning to the audience, and yeah, and then maybe I cannot also provide some answer, but I think some good questioning can
That's,
be
I think, a
find
very
some
good definition of art, to give people or the audience the questions and the answers. They have to find it themselves. That's a very good definition of art. I have to keep this in mind. I'm impressed by that answer. Now I'm going to say hello to my, sorry, Chang Sook, I know you from now. I didn't meet you before. Now I say hello to my dear friend Elizabeth Kang, who is the owner of the gallery Kang Contemporary. I'm very happy that you're here. Sorry that it took such a long time, but you know, I was so excited to meet Chan Sook because she's going soon to South Korea back, and she got many prizes, and she's very famous, and she's a for me, she's a rising star in that scene. I think so. And also the story she has,
Definitely.
yes, it will bring her more up, because it's a message, you know, what is for me very, very important, that you have a message nowadays. So it's a message
Absolutely.
which
Yeah.
comes from a long time ago, and now it's the future. We still have migration, and we always will have, as we ever always had. So migration will be a very big thematic in our life, and also for women, because women, they are touched and disturbed, or their lives are struggling more than men, because men are stronger, men don't have children on their side, and necessarily, so things are different. So Elizabeth, I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you very much that you found the time. And I would
Thank
like
you for having us. What a privilege to.
and I would, it's an honor for me. And I would really like to know, how did you meet her? How did you meet Chan Sook? What do you want to, when you show her her art, and how do you think things are going on? What is the message you as a gallery want to provide for the audience and for the collectors? What is that, what you want to say with her? Because it's always a relationship as a gallery when you take an artist. So I'm very curious to know.
I had a, right. I met Chan Sook about a year ago, and we visited, my colleague and I visited Chan Sook's studio in Pfefferberg. And so there we got to know her work much deeper. But before, I've already had some, researched and viewed her work. One of the most important aspects when we look for artists is, of course, aesthetic. It should be beautiful and move the viewer. But in case of Chan Sook, she has both. Like, she has a very deep meaning. When she does this kind of series now, Qubit to Atom, One Atom, it's like a long years of research that she's done, that she processed into various media, like video and installations and photography, and sometimes also drawing. And I don't know, as a gallerist, I would like to think that our artists has, their work has a relevance to the society, So for me, it's very important, the topic, what topic they deal with, or how they deal with the topic. And so, so conceptually, it's very compelling and very important for us. As you said, in the future, there will be more migration for I think half of the world population will be moving around in 2050 for, personal reason, for jobs, or avoiding the catastrophe, or refugees, and so on. So her topic of this kind of displacement, or that she felt as a person coming from Asia and working in European country, and that was heightened by the history of her grandmother, who was a innocent civilian living in Korea with a Korean man, because they love each other, but she also got a lot of prejudice and social isolation. So I think it's quite interesting, this whole topic of, like diaspora, people, especially women, because I think for men, they have structure, either they work or they have a system, whereas many women, they are sort of trailing their husbands. But even if you're not, like in modern days, like we are more independent, but still there's a lot of bias, or people have a certain idea about women that can, which they have to, or we have to, how would you say, break the barriers and Great Wall to be voiced.
I didn't get it. Can you repeat it? Can you repeat it?
So in this sense, I thought it was a very interesting topic. Sorry?
I couldn't hear the last sentence, half of the last sentence, and the audience will not hear it. Could you repeat it, please? You said women have to break the walls, and there is a bias, and maybe you can structure this a little out, would be great.
Right, like for example, for example, we look Asian, but we have a very global education, and we think we have a different cultural background, but people see us in a very different way than we actually are. And I think that happens also when Western people go to, Asia or Africa or different continents. So in this kind of very global world, I think it's interesting and important to break down those barriers and the walls and see people as individuals. And for example, Chan Sook mentioned about how she is seen in European art scene certain way, and on other ways in Korea. So I think it would be very good to people see her as an artist, for example, and with a different cultural nuance and layers.
I see.
I hope
Yes, you explained it perfectly, and this is also totally my point of view towards human beings. I think that we know all that there is racism, but racism is one
Mhm.
thing. But I think when it comes to women, I mean, when we have people of color, or you call them dark or black, whatever you may call it, I think they feel a lot of racism. But women, they feel even more than racism. They feel
Yeah.
discrimination, they feel stigma,
Mhm.
stereotypes, and prejudice. So we have, and of course, a kind of racism always when you're, for example, colored, or when you are Asian, or when whatever. So
Mhm.
I think, even, some Eastern European countries, they have a lot of prejudices to deal with. So I think, there are prejudices all around the world. There is racism all around the world. It goes
Yeah, I just want to interject on that one. Right. But it's not even racism. It's also prejudice against the half of the population. So, for example, to give a good example, here in Germany, the women artists were not allowed to study in German art academy until I think 1918 or 19. So if you want to be an artist before that, you had to go some other places or learn privately. Um, I think more than half of the all World Academy, Art Academy are women graduates. But if you look at the international global art representation in museums and art fairs,
Mhm.
it's actually a very small percentage. So for me as an artist, I would like to support also like you, women, and so I have a proportionally high number of women artists. It is not to say that I don't appreciate
Yes.
men artists, right? But if there were same quality and same how would you say value of the work, I would choose women artists.
Yes.
And yeah.
I agree. And I don't think that this is a discrimination of men. I think, as long as there is so many male artists, and there's male men are all around the world in leading positions, and they own most of the fortunes, and they earn much more than women all in general. So they have the higher level jobs whenever it comes to the next level, The more it goes up, the less women are. So I don't think that this is a wrong decision to choose when the quality is the same, to choose the woman. That's what I also do. I'm not discriminating same quality. So if it's the same quality, then you can choose a woman. So I would always look for the best. But if there is two, I would choose the woman, of course. I do this always in when I gave jobs, or when I helped, or whatever. But I think you're totally right. And this should be also, this is the question which should be raised also in artists for me, that, as our world is still very brutal, very violent, very rude, there is a world full of aggression, full of weapons, and full of destruction. And I don't want to blame only men for that. This would be not fair. But honestly, it's a man's world. And this is not only just an easy sentence. It means that, all these weapons, all these systems, they're mostly dominated from men. And we call them white old black men, white old men. But I think that's really the thing, that this makes the world like this, more like this. And we should change this, and art should reflect this also. And migration is also one thing, because why shouldn't we share this world? I am very far away from the idea that we have the right to close our borders. I'm very far away from that idea. I think it's one world, and I don't see these barriers, these countries, and I don't see this, and I don't feel it. I only know humans whom I like, or whom I find sympathetic, and that's it. That's the criteria for me for everything. So I cannot follow this border policy and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking about what we will answer in 1,000 years. It's a pity that I will be not there to hear the answers. I really think about what will be in 1,000 years when we will be asked, how did you live with the fact that there are people dying on the ocean side, that there are people dying on the border of Mexico, and that they are shot because they want to leave their country because they need a better life? And how can you answer this stuff? And how are you going to deal with prostitution, with slavery, with modern slavery? How can you deal with all this, which is also in some countries, we know this. And how give we the answers? How could we live with that? Now after the Nazi time, we know what they did, and we are talking about this every day. And even in Germany is the center of this stuff, and what the Germans did. And we also keep this in mind, and we will never forget. And it will always be like it's branded inside. But we will have to consider all this other stuff as well, because we are just ignoring all this cruelty, this violence, these wars all around the world. And that's where art can give an answer. Now I come back to the art. I really like your answer a lot, Elizabeth. That's, we don't know each other very good, but the connection is very deep. It has nothing to do with time, I think.
Thank you.
I would like to know the artist, or the art, for example, with the future, how can it deal with these problems? How can it also show some answers? Because, I think people need also some directions, not only to have the questions, but maybe as an artist, you could also give some answers, which are appropriate. And the other one can choose, this is an answer which I can accept. So how can art and the gallery put this forward? Because your kind of art is totally different from painting. Yes, Elizabeth? You want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to just interject. I think that's a very good question. I do think that the art community and the topics that artists and the art community treat can create like a critical mass and so-called social cohesion that kind of makes people be more like, positive or hopeful or constructive. Like look at situation for us now, like when we were young, being gay or being lesbian was like real big taboo. But nowadays, through the whole art community and gay movement, change the notion that it's very normal and very acceptable.
Right.
So that's like kind of a small example, but so like the topics that artists like Chan Sook deals with, it will sensitize the society and the viewers and create a more constructive and progressive society. That's what I'm hoping.
Oh, I'm hoping the same. It's wonderful what you answer. Chan Sook, I would like to have an answer. And also, is it possible that we see something from your work? I think in the background, is this the videos we see? This is from your artwork, right? Is it?
Right. Yes.
Maybe you can say something about it, or just switch to the point so we can have an idea.
Yeah, that is my new work called The Black Air, and it's all about the ownership of the land and how the human begin the ownership. And actually, after my research, I found there are many similarity. How the men treat the land is also very same way to treat the woman, and also it's always if we are make some the uncloser, then there are always the people came from push it away from this border. And I'm very curious how it start and how when it comes this idea, because as you mentioned, is this land, it was one, it was one, and it belongs nobody actually. But and so this work is about this history of ownership and how we can deal with that in the future.
Very good. And this is a video installation now, right?
Right.
How long does it take time to see it? Is it
It's 12 minutes.
Okay, and where did you take this? It's a video which you took with, how did you do it? From a helicopter or from a drone, or how did you do it?
Yes, I film by drones, and I I went to the Chile for the research because there are a very important place which occupied by multinational or multi companies.
Where did you went to? I didn't get it.
I went in Chile,
To
South,
Chile? To Chile?
South America.
Really? Oh, I have a very good friend. I have two very good friends from Chile. They are living both in Berlin. One is the owner of a restaurant, a very famous one. I don't say her name. The other one is a very good singer. She's an amazing voice. I have to connect you with her because she's a wonderful woman. And it's in Chile. What is the story about Chile? Because I didn't know about that stuff. Can you please explain it a little bit?
Yes, in Chile, there are northern part of Chile, there are Atacama Desert. And I found one space which is world best largest copper mining there. And then next to that is copper mining. There are
Copper or copper? I'm not sure. Copper. I'm sorry. I'm not. My English is not very good. I have to think about copper because. Okay. Okay.
Right. And then next to this mining, there are International Radio Telescopes Research Center. And then for me, that was a kind of the vertical monument what human doing on the earth, because one part they are digging until the end of the world, end of the earth, and then the other part looking for another planet or looking for another signal in the sky. So yeah, that was for me very interesting to be there. And then yeah, I did listen.
Kind of a bias, right? It's going.
Right. Right.
So this is one of your artworks. Is there any other artwork in the gallery now which we can see from you if we are able to go to the gallery and see you in real life, at least you, Elizabeth, because you're going to South Korea quite soon and you're getting a very, very important prize. I will ask you later on. Elizabeth,
Yeah.
could we come to the gallery and visit it very much in private or something like two or whatever? Is it possible, Elizabeth, at the moment?
Yes, you can register, but you could also do online viewing. We had we put that all in online. So if you just go into Contemporary landing page, the homepage, then there's a online viewing button.
Okay, I will have a look. So it's Kang Contemporary.
You can look from the comfort of home. But of course, it's never the same. And it's wonderful to experience.
Sorry, Chan Sook, you have to mute. Chan Sook, she has to mute the microphone, I think, because we can hear it. Chan Sook, you have to mute it. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So
like I said, the audience can see it online at the comfort of home.
Yes.
But of course, you can come to the gallery by registering, like contact us by email, and then we could have one by one with a strict regulation. And I believe in March, maybe the second, third week of March, there's a political talk that the museums and the gallery may open. So,
wonderful. I will be there. I'm not there on the 5th of March, but I will try to be there when it comes to the opening. Another small question I have to the artist still, because to be honest, I'm very honest now with you. I tell you something. I'm very much interested in art. I started buying arts when I was 16. I had no money. And my first artwork I bought when I was living in Munich and I was 19. I was studying. I had no penny practically. It's 40 years ago. I'm very old, So it was really when I went to it was an auction, and there was a picture from the very Joseph Beuys, and in this time everybody talked about him. He was something like a hero. And for me, he was my hero because he was so different from other artists. So I really liked his art. And there was a photo from him with his signature, and it was sold in the auction. And I had no money at all. And there were some famous rich people with me. And I was, of course, a very poor student. And there was Rummenigge, it was a former football player, and now he's one of the presidents or whatever. And he was still very, very young at this time and very good looking. And I was there, and he raised his hand, and I thought, if he is going to the next step, I will not be able to pay. And I looked at him like this, and it was very happy. I was very happy. He realized that I want to have it, and he didn't go for it. So finally,
what a wonderful story!
Really,
wonderful story of like a really passionate art collector.
It's really
and a lucky situation that you are able to get such a sounds like a very good art.
Yes, and the funny thing is, he realized it, and I got it, and it was 1,000 Deutschmark. But 40 years ago, it was like 5,000. I say,
especially as a student.
Yes, and it was ruining me. I tell you, I had to struggle for this money a lot. Anyhow, so this was my first connection with art, and I was, of course, always looking for the artist. But honestly, Chan Sook, I never bought contemporary art, so not like video installations and things like that. Am I right, or am I totally wrong if I ask you, or I have to ask you also, Elizabeth, is this kind of art, is it made for museums, is it made for exhibitions, or is it also made for private collectors? What would you say, and how can you describe it? And maybe I'm totally wrong. Please, I'm looking forward to hear it from you, and then later from Elizabeth. From Elizabeth. Please, Chan Sook.
Yeah, you are not totally wrong, but yeah, actually, there are just a very few circulation, the private collector who collecting the new media. As you know, the new media is very, it's not it's not fixed in the art market. There are no real sustainable price for these video things. Of course, video installation sales as an edition like a photograph, but it's normally is produced or is collected by museum. It's not so for the private collections. But that's why the many various media artists have a very difficult situation actually. I mean financially. So, but yeah. There are also photographs or some drawings besides this main artwork. So maybe that can be also sales as in the traditional art market, but as a main work, the video installation is very difficult to sales or to find the collections.
Now I have to pronounce one thing because I know Julia Stoschek, and she's one of the very, for me, she's a hero in that art scene because she really, she's aware of what kind of important message this is for the future. Because I think the message you can provide and the message you can transform to a broad audience with video installations, with this kind of very, very new artworks, they are so much bigger, and there is such a big variety in what you can transport and transform to audience, that I'm really attracted by this. And I think she's a modern hero for that art scene, and she realized it, and her collection is quite huge now, I think. And I think later on, we will talk maybe about our Chancellor Angela Merkel, who did a good job, I think. And of course about Julia Stoschek also, because she did a great job for the art scene. So I'm happy that I know her, and she's a great person also. So now, Elizabeth, can you say something? How can you as a gallery handle this thing when, for example, a person who is not so educated in art like you are, how can you tell me what can I do with that kind of art? Put it on in a room, show it on a video screen, or what kind of art would you provide me as a collector? Because I'm collecting a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, I think collection is a very personal thing. I think the collector should really trust their feeling. There are many connoisseurs who really know and really understand. I would say like sort of media art, like the ones that Chan Sook creates, it's also a chance for new collectors because, the prices are really low for the quality, and it's a new field. So definitely the prices will increase in the future. And, you know, it's like being a discoverer, you know, like being like on the, on the edge of, you know, avant-garde movement. So
I see.
those who are very, okay, those who are very seeking something really new and something very future-oriented would be also very appreciative. Like, let's say if we do sales of the video art, we would put it as a package, not just give like USB stick, but put it, you know, with the monitor, so that the collector just has to, you know, put up the monitor and put it on. There are also different kind of collectors. They just love the idea and having an ownership of something that is very significant in terms of civilization or you know, annals of art history. Then they sometimes have their storage and store it. But we would like, as a gallerist, I would like that the art is being shown. So even in private room or in private museum, that it should be available to the audience, and that makes the art lively because there's a exchange. You know, people respond to the contemporary art.
That's what I love most, and that's the important thing is art. Now I have to later on. I have to check my account. Maybe if you tell me this, that it's the prices are quite. How do you say, agreeable, or what do you say? I think agreeable or something like that. I don't have the word now. If the prices are quite good, you know, I have to check whether I can afford it. I will have a look. And another thing before we stop now talking, it's very interesting, but you know, we have a time limit. Very interesting. I didn't expect it to be so lively and really exciting. Chan Sook, another question. You are going to South Korea in a few days and you get a very important prize, as you got a lot of prizes. I read it in your CV and I was very impressed. Also your exhibition in Grimmuseum, and you did some work for the Humboldt Forum, and you're very, very well known in the scene, and you're a very international artist. So I'm very happy that I met you. I would like to know what kind of prize is it and where do you get it? Can you say something about that? And then we will say goodbye for this afternoon.
Yes, actually, about this prize, I cannot say until middle of March. It's a embargo, so maybe we have to keep a little bit safe under our network.
Oh, I heard this.
Yeah, it's a prize for a contemporary artist from the modern National Museum for Modern Art and Contemporary Art in Korea. And then I think it's very honorable prize actually as a contemporary artist. So they collecting 4 artists for a finalist, and then they collecting one of them and at the end of the year again.
Oh, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
If I may interject, Chan Sook just had a big show at the Taiwan Taipei Digital Art Museum. And then she has one coming up in March at the Sydney Opera House Contemporary Art Center. So she has installation on some of the topics that we just talked about.
Crazy, crazy, and great. I'm very happy. So I'm very happy for you, Chan Sook, and I'm very happy that I met you. It was great meeting you. Elizabeth, thanks a lot for your time and for this possibility. I'm very glad with that. And I hope a lot of our friends will see this and will get to know a little bit more about this very interesting kind of art, which I think is the future. So I'm happy that I met 2 wonderful women. I'm very grateful for that, for your time and for everything. And I wish you a very nice evening, afternoon. And I wish you all stay healthy and happy and go for the right things in your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for this opportunity. And it's very, very rewarding to speak to who's a connoisseur about art.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.